like I said, this is a fantastic, fantastic moment. This is incredible victory. And it's just the beginning. Like I said, with Chris Van Hollen going down to CCOT, that was a major, major victory. That was a good start. That was a major battle won. Anyway, look, Mohsen is finally free. Detained Palestinian American student speaks after his court hearing. We'll show you the images right here. Mohsen Mahdawi, Palestinian American student on a green card. It has been officially freed. For those of you who don't know, Mohsen was one of the student activist leaders. He is very outspoken. He's a humanist. He's a humanitarian. That was his main focus on this issue. He has tried to make inroads with even Zionists on campus and Israelis on campus and Israeli advocacy groups on campus in an effort to try and find a reasonable middle ground. He is perhaps one of the best examples of a perfect victim, like straightforwardly a perfect victim. And he was in perhaps one of the most depraved immigrant enforcement actions, in spite of his approach to the subject matter, in spite of the fact that he is a perfect communicator of the Palestinian Emancipatory Clause from the cause, Palestinian Emancipatory Cause from a perspective that like American shitty squishy liberals will also appreciate and understand. He was still unjustly apprehended, and his apprehension was absolutely insane. The way that they apprehended him was he knew that the government was most likely going to come after him, so he was in hiding in Vermont, okay? And knowing full well that he was in hiding in Vermont, the government actually called him in to an immigration office. They called him into an immigration office to tell him that he could. They called him into an immigration office to tell him that this was the day of his citizenship test, like he was about to be naturalized as a U.S. citizen. Right before he went to this immigration facility, this immigration administrative facility, he gave an interview to Akilah Lacey where he basically said, either I am going to tomorrow become an American citizen, finally go through the naturalization process, become an American citizen, as they say they want to do, or I'm going to be detained by ICE. The scary thing that he suspected was going to happen did end up happening. 14 ICE plainclothes officers rolled up to his immigration hearing, his naturalization ceremony, what was supposed to be his naturalization ceremony, and detained him. They apprehended him, and they put him in prison. And in the process, there wasn't a lot of fuss about this, with some very important and notable exceptions. I will admit, Bernie Sanders, I think, really disappointed me in this. But you know who didn't disappoint me? Ed Markey. You know who didn't disappoint me? The other Vermont senator. What's his name? Pete Wench? What was the other? No. Yeah, it's Peter Welsh. Sorry. Just like Peter Welsh, United States Senator from Vermont, he went and he talked to Mohsen directly, and he offered him a microphone. He offered he basically showed his plight to the rest of the world. He showed his plight to America. Okay? This was his interview. This was his last interview, by the way, speaking to CBS's, what is her name? Lilia Luciano, one day before his scheduled citizenship interview in Vermont, where the Columbia student Palestinian activist was detained by immigration agents, where he told CBS, the work and activism that we have done was centered in the energy of love. We did it because of our love for humanity, our love for justice, our love for human rights. I want people to know my compassion extended beyond the Palestinian people. My compassion is also for the Jewish people and the Israelis as well. And in spite of all of that, they still arrested him. They still detained him. They still tried to accelerate the process of revoking his green card. And for what? A First Amendment violation. An incredibly scary precedent is on the verge of being set by this administration. they are trying to tackle this issue from the perspective. They're trying to tackle this issue from the perspective of immigration enforcement, where they want to say non-citizens do not have the same constitutional protections that citizens have. Can we watch the e-debate now, please? I need to go to sleep shortly. It hasn't started yet. What the do you want me to do? Do you want me to go forward in time? God damn, some of you guys are so horny for drama. Jesus Christ, dude. Let me talk about real issues that matter, okay? As I was saying, right now as it stands, contrary to the popular opinion of dumb reactionaries in the United States of America, as long as you are on U.S. soil, documented, undocumented, citizen, non-citizen alike, you are protected by the Constitution. The Constitution offers you protections against government overreach. That's what the Constitution is there to do. Okay? The Trump administration is trying to tackle this problem because it's a problem for them, because they don't want the First Amendment to exist. They don't want many constitutional protections to exist. Unlawful search and seizure is another constitutional protection that they don't want. And they've actually been able to get away with revoking the Fourth Amendment, 14th Amendment, and even freedom of speech in many instances, as a matter of fact. They've been able to take advantage of the previous erosions of certain constitutional amendments. And the way that they are doing this is so nefarious, but so visible. They're doing it in broad daylight. They are using immigration enforcement to decouple non-citizens, okay? Non-citizens as being protected by the Constitution. It is unconstitutional what they're doing here, okay? They are trying to erode due process. They are trying to take away the First Amendment rights of non-citizens. And they keep claiming that the non-citizens are actually devoid of constitutional protections anyway. This is a very dangerous precedent, especially when paired up with an erosion of the erosion of due process. Because once you take away due process, you can never show that you are a citizen. And the Trump administration has deported citizens already, citizen children, as a matter of fact, alongside their non-citizen parents. Understand that this is a major, major victory for civil liberties in this country, but it's not done yet. Yeah. And I'm glad that the judge openly admitted that even if he was a firebrand, even if he said stuff that I haven't even said, he has every right to remain on U.S. soil. You can 100%, if we're talking about constitutional protections, you can literally say whatever the you want as a green card recipient and not get in trouble for it on that alone. You can't incite a riot, right? You can't do that. You can't do that. That is illegal. That's a separate offense. But you cannot be deported, which is a very high criminal penalty for simply saying things, for simply doing hate speech even. I'm not even talking about what Mohsen said, okay? I'm talking about like Nazi demonstrations of neo-Nazi shit. The Constitution protects citizens and non-citizens alike from demonstrating or from being prosecuted for demonstrating. That's the whole point. And these guys aren't doing that anyway. But I need you to understand that there's a reason why the First Amendment exists. And this is precisely that reason. It is so that a fascist administrative state can't just unjustifiably revoke your legal status on U.S. soil for the crime of saying Israel, which Mohsen didn't even say, by the way. But I'm glad that this judge also put his foot down and even said, even if he's a peaceful figure, but he has rights even if he were a firebrand, as I said as well. Remember, I said these exact same words. Jeffrey Crawford, the judge in Wednesday's ruling, wrote that those who know Mahdawi describe him as a peaceful figure who seeks consensus in a highly charged political environment. But Crawford added, even if he were a firebrand, his conduct is protected by the First Amendment. The court is aware that he has offended his political opponents and apparently given rise to concerns at the State Department that he's an obstacle to American foreign policy. Such conduct is insufficient to support a finding that he is in any way a danger, as we use that term in the context of detention and release. Legal residents not charged with crimes or misconduct are being arrested and threatened with deportation for stating their views on the political issues of the day, Crawford said, citing the Red Scare and McCarthy-era targeting of people for their political views. The wheel of history has come around again, but as before, these times of excess will pass. But as before, these times of excess will pass. What an incredible statement from this judge. And it's shocking because, like, in this day and age, the situation in America has gotten so off balance, so unimaginably broken, that when a judge says, no, the law is the law, he is not an activist judge at all. He is just abiding by the constitutional standards that were set. These are some of the best aspects of the American Constitution. Like, I often say, the Constitution, I wipe my ass with it because the interpretation of the Constitution is so damaged at this point by activist judges put into positions of power by the Federalist Society over a 40-year-long project where they basically revoked super precedents that they said they would never touch, like Roe v. Wade, right? Having said that, there are certain protections that, like, liberalism has afforded to all people that were better than previous administrative previous forms of governance. We are not living in the time of monarchs or feudal peasants at this point. And it's crazy to me that fascism in many ways tries to go back to that, tries to claw back the restrictions that have been set by not only the social contract, but directly by putting pen to paper in the form of the constitutional amendments. It's ridiculous. It is ridiculous. Due process and First Amendment protections are fundamental. Those are the only good things about America. The fact that those have been eroded in the past for political purpose, like the McCarthyist Red Scare trials, is already a dark period of American history. It is completely unacceptable. It is completely unacceptable. And I'm so glad that there are, like, still people in positions of power. Their power is waning, for the record, because Trump also sees this as a hurdle to implement his fascist agenda. Okay? And wants to arrest these people. Like, that's what's so crazy. They want to arrest these judges too. They want to revoke the separation of powers. They want the judicial body to no longer have no longer function as a separate entity. Like, think about that. There's no checks and balances at that point. That's the whole purpose for how this society was designed. I thought people loved this shit. I thought this was what was all about, what it was all about, you know? This is what America is supposed to be about. These are the good things of America and American society. Oh. Judge noted that he received 90 submissions from community members, experts, professors who attested to Mohsen's character, many of them being Jews. Yeah. I also do need you to understand, okay? People will say, like, Jewish exceptionalism, blah, 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 blah. Like, we live in the United States of America, okay? There is a reason why you have to manage the way you talk about these issues. We live in the Western world. Americans are very one note. They don't have the same based opinion of constantly offering critical support to any sort of militancy that is against America. You need this kind of defense. It sucks, but it's the truth. And this is good because this sets a precedent of defense against the administration taking even more erroneous and belligerent actions against people who are in violation of the laws that they have set forth on their own, as to claim that you can't say anything mean about Israel. In granting the release of Mahdawi, the judge noted that the court had received more than 90 submissions from community members, academic experts, and professors who know Mahdawi, many of them Jewish, attesting to his character and consistently describing him as peaceful. Can we stop pretending that precedent matters, like, at all right now? Oh my God. Oh my God. Listen to me. Listen to my words. This doesn't mean that it's over. This doesn't mean that this battle is done. But just stop complaining when things move slowly in the positive direction, even by an inch. This is objectively a good thing. a lot of you are too young, I think, to understand how much time and how much steady flow of information must be hammered into the minds of the Americans for them to basically comprehend what's going on. Trump has shown he doesn't care, though. I know he doesn't care, but it does not matter. This action against Mohsen Mahdawi and this action against Mahmoud Khalil and Rumeysa Öztürk and many others was already his lack of care being demonstrated. So don't look a gift horse in the goddamn mouth, okay? What's the alternative? That he just gets packed out? He gets shipped out of the country? What's the alternative? He goes to the West Bank, gets shot by Israel or detained permanently, and in the process, America sets a new precedent that non-citizens don't have any rights, and that simultaneously non-citizens don't have any constitutional protections, even if they're green card recipients, even if they're legal permanent residents. They have a green card. They're basically about to become American citizens, right? And now it's over. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. You can't say anything about Israel. You can get ethered. You can just get lasered out of existence. They'll just ship your ass to CCOT. It does not matter that the Trump administration doesn't care about due process or doesn't care about the rule of law. You still have to use things that exist, defenses that exist to your advantage. Do you not understand this argument? I just brought up the fact that, you know, there are constitutional interpretive hurdles in front of making progress in this goddamn country. Like when it comes to gun control, for example, right? The Second Amendment and its false interpretation is a major hurdle in achieving any sort of reasonable gun safety measures, okay? We can't do it. We just simply can't do it, and it's because of this false interpretation. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't keep attempting. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't keep trying. That doesn't mean you throw the entire Constitution in the trash or don't use the existing institutions and what remains of their institutional defense capabilities to your advantage in this process to basically put a stopgap measure on growing fascism in this country. Use the tools that are given to you to your advantage to keep pushing. An anonymous gifter, thank you for the 50 gifted subs. Why is it not worse than it is right now? What's stopping an ICE agent for taking this protesters to El Salvador? Anyway, I'm like I said, this is a fantastic, fantastic moment. This is incredible victory, and it's just the beginning. Like I said, with Chris Van Hollen going down to CCOT to see Kilmar Abrego Garcia in person and get proof of life and have him actually shipped out of CCOT to a different detention facility. That was a major, major victory. That was a good start. That was a major battle won. It's not the war. This is not a victory. This is a bare minimum. No, it is a victorious battle. It is not the end of the war, okay? The war is still ongoing. The war against fascism is still happening. But this is a battle, a very important battle. And there's still plenty more to fight. A lot of you think that the struggle against fascism is supposed to happen overnight with a momentous, spontaneous, revolutionary victory that happens overnight. And all you have to do is post a little bit on Twitter and then boom. It's not. It's not a sprint. It's a marathon. Okay? It takes years and years and years of constantly trying to convince people. And you should remember that. That's why I always tell you, being a leftist is all about taking L's over and over and over again and trying to find the marginal victories that you see as you move society in the right direction day in and day out. Maybe you convinced one person yesterday and that person convinced another tomorrow. That is how this grows. That is how this movement grows. And it's just like that. This little victory in this battle is important because the media now covers it. And then now more people are aware of the depravity of this administration. Okay? So stop. Stop with a defeatist attitude to have in this very moment.
Wait. And the Mohawk people who used to live here and who we are standing on their remainings. I say aho mitakuya uyasan, all of my relations. Second part, I want to thank all of you here. I want to thank everyone who held the sign, who raised their voice, who wrote a post, who contacted their representatives, who sang a song, who made a prayer. Thank you.
And by the way, there's a big scoop coming from the Bulwark where Hakeem Jeffries, is actually telling Democrats he doesn't want more trips to El Salvador. Okay? That's another hurdle. That is a self-imposed hurdle from the supposed counterbalance, the supposed countermeasure against growing fascism in this country. This is one of the leaders of the Democratic Party using his leadership role to basically undermine radical change, popular change. And I need you to understand, he is also absolutely standing in the way of progress. Okay? And he will be yelled at and he will pull it back, or his office will dispute it or something like that. But if there are hurdles amongst your own ranks in terms of doing the right thing, if Hakeem Jeffries is an enemy to progress, then you just need to communicate that to people and say, this person is horrible. He's not doing his job. Same with Chuck Schumer, another leader in the Democratic Party. What is Chuck Schumer worried about? What is Chuck Schumer focusing on? Silly ass nonsense in this time where one of his constituents was basically grabbed by plainclothes officers and unjustifiably shipped off to a Louisiana detention facility to be deported for the crime of being a student leader, a student protest leader, being the face of a student protest movement in Colombia, being on the right side of history against the apartheid state of Israel, doing a genocide. And Chuck Schumer is too busy going on his book tour talking about how the left has a real anti-Semitism problem and lightly agreeing with Donald Trump on how to deal with these bad boys, okay? These bad guys who are saying mean things about the state of Israel, who he seemingly cares a lot about, okay? Instead of but also criticizing Trump with a stern letter that he wrote alongside Cory Booker and many of these other charlatans to say, well, you just didn't go about it the right way. You didn't go about it the right way. We are totally on board with you actually doing this deportation agenda against criticizers of Israel, but you just have to do it the right way. What do you mean do it the right way? There is no right way to deport someone for saying mean things about Israel. What the are you talking about? There's no way. This is the United States of America. It's one of the most important aspects of American civilization is that you can say this kind of stuff and not be penalized by the government. That's the whole purpose of the First Amendment. This is what it was set up for, okay? This is literally what it was designed for. That's the whole purpose of the First Amendment. Free speech, freedom of assembly, freedom of expression. This is the reason, to be able to speak out and organize and express your thoughts against growing fascism. That's like the whole point. Maybe not fascism at the time, but like, you know, against monarchy, unjustifiable constructs, against tyranny. That was the whole purpose, right? The American Revolution, what the was this whole thing about? Just killing Native Americans and having slaves? Is that what the whole thing was? I mean, that was certainly an important aspect of it, but like this was the good stuff. What are we doing? Well, the reason why I bring up this dumbass is because his approval rating is the lowest in Congress right now. His approval rating is the lowest in the Republican leadership, in the Democratic leadership. His approval rating is worse than Donald Trump. Like, he is in the shitter, and there's a reason for it, because while all of this stuff is happening, let's take a look at what this guy is focusing on, okay? I'm still here. Brief F. Ay, so goddamn annoying. Why? Why does it always happen like this? Ay. I'm here. I'm back. Every goddamn day, dude. There's gonna be a point, and every day there's gonna be a point where every single day there's gonna be a moment where I just get like that brief F, and I don't know why it happens. And it's not my CPU. It's not my CPU. Okay, it's not my CPU, and it's not even I don't even know if it's my ISP or not. It's Chuck Schumer. That's what happened. Chuck Schumer clapped me. Chuck Schumer sending a warning. He's like, don't talk shit. Don't you dare talk shit, big dog. I'll come after you. He said, Hasan, you think you can stream? You think you can stream, Hasan?
Hell no.
That's what he said. Were you silent or were you silenced? Yeah. Hey, dude, I don't want to backseat, but have you considered it might be because you're a stupid idiot baby? I didn't consider that. I did not consider that, chatter. Thank you for bringing that to my attention. It's probably because I'm a stupid idiot baby. Dumbass. You're so stupid. Yeah. Chuck Schumer, is it because I'm a stupid idiot baby? Is that the reason why I can't stream? Is that what's going on?
Hell no.
Yeah, well, guess what? Chuck thinks, no. Yeah. Americans love to believe the mythology of the revolution and to think of themselves in that mythology, but the fact of the matter is Americans are too lazy or caught up in their own lives to really do anything unless it directly affects them. It's fine. Our purpose, our job here, my job especially, is to have a bullhorn, to yell at people, to help them understand that this is going to impact them. That is what I do every single day, and I will continue to do so. Okay? That is what I do. That is my job, and that should be your job as well. My job is to urge you to also do this exact same thing to people in your immediate vicinity. There are 30,000 plus people in here. We can make an impact. We are making an impact. We are changing people's minds every single day. Remember that. Be kind to people, be ruthless to systems, and keep talking to others and engage in the act of protest. Get other people involved. Get your family members involved. You just have to keep working. That is the reason why I think it's important to recognize when there is a victory, albeit is it Pyrrhic or Pyrrhic? I know people yell at me when I say it wrong. Like, even if there's a small victory, you cannot discard this. You cannot say that this is unimportant. This is stupid. This is important. This is important. This is important because this will cause more people to pay attention to it. This will make people aware of the depravity. And it is your opportunity in this very moment to tie this back to individual liberties that Americans do care about. Maybe they don't give a shit about Israel. Maybe they're a little worried. Mohsen Mahdawi, that sounds like a brown guy. It sounds kind of scary to me. But you got to make people understand that this is an attack against the First Amendment because every American does care about that.
A Columbia student detained by ICE is now free after a federal judge ordered his immediate release.
It's not a Pyrrhic victory anyway, because it's not a useless victory, but it is a costly one.
For U.S. citizenship, the judge says his 2 weeks in detention demonstrate great harm to a person who has been charged with no crime. Now, Mahdawi says he has faith in the justice system, saying injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere.
If we have faith in our beliefs, unshakable beliefs, which is the belief that justice is inevitable, we will not fear anyone because our fight is a fight for democracy, is a fight for humanity. Amen. To President Trump and his cabinet, yes, I am not afraid of you.
Hell yeah.
And let's bring in ABC News immigration reporter Armando Garcia for more. Armando, what more can you tell us about this decision and the significance here?
Well, it's definitely very significant because we got to remember Mohsen Mahdawi is just one of several students right now that are in immigration detention centers across the country being targeted by the Trump administration for their role in the pro-Palestinian protests on campuses. In his ruling, the judge said that Mohsen should be allowed to continue his studies. As we've reported, he is expected to graduate next year, in just a few weeks next month. But also, this is just really, really stunning because a lot of people are going to be looking at this case. As I mentioned, there's a lot of students that have been targeted by the Trump administration for similar reasons, but they're still in detention.
Yeah, I'll work to get Mahdawi on. I'm sure there's plenty of people that are in the chat right now that know him personally. I would love to have him on. Mohsen, I know you're probably pretty busy right now, but I would love to have you on the broadcast. Is he actually free? Because courts also said Kilmar should be free, but isn't? No, he's literally walking free currently, so he is free. I mean, I don't know for how long. They might try to do some once again, but yeah. I know someone who might possibly know someone who probably knows him. He's free, but he's still pending the case. He's just out on bail. I know, but he's functionally free. Part of that is because he was apprehended in Vermont, and they were able to have an expeditious trial on a bail determination. Like that was, these are the reasons as to why normally ICE will move very fast to take you out and put you in Jenna, right? Like to put you in a Louisiana detention facility like they did with Mahmoud Khalil. And that complicates things, but it's a deliberate design. So why are you angry at Bernie? The reason why I'm not angry at Bernie, I'm disappointed with Bernie because Pete Welch actually went. Peter Welch is a Vermont senator, just like Bernie Sanders is. He actually went to the detention facility and talked directly to Mohsen Mahdawi, and Bernie did not do that. And I wanted him to do that. I wanted him to not just like write tweets about how terrible this is or talk about it in his protests, talk about it as like fighting the oligarchy rallies, but like to directly take action. I wish that he would have done that. I think that this is important enough, given that this is your constituent, this is important enough to make time for. I'm sorry, before people say there is an fighting oligarchy tour, like you are misunderstanding, because the inevitability of Mohsen's release would have shown Americans that there is a way out of this, okay? This is all about not just organizing people and getting them together and engaging in the act of catharsis and saying, oh, wow, look how bad the situation is, okay? This is about mobilizing people. Bernie Sanders has an incredible mobilization capacity. He is bringing out 30,000 people, okay? He is bringing out 30,000 people to go listen to him, to go listen to AOC. I think it was a major mistake not to take this momentum and then focus it directionally on some of these issues that he does speak about, right? And that's why, I mean, I'll be honest with you guys. I actually DM'd Faiz, okay? I DM'd Faiz a while back, and I was like, listen, he has not responded. He doesn't follow me back, so maybe he didn't see it. But I DM'd him, and I was like, is Bernie thinking about doing any of this? Like, is he thinking about like actually showing up to one of these events? As you guys know, because I think it's like, I say, hey man, does Bernie plan on doing something around Mohsen or Mahmoud's release? Would love to participate in that and work to get as much coverage as possible. And part of the reason why I wanted this to happen was because the more people are involved in this, the more media attention is on the story. And the more media attention is on the story, the more people understand the depravity, right? The rallies aren't at all incompatible. Hold one in front of ICE. No, I mean, my expectation is not that he rallies in front of ICE. That would be great, right? That would be awesome. But what Peter Welch did was fantastic. He went to the facility. He got access to Mohsen. He talked to him directly. You know, this is how you do it. And before people say he declined, Bernie, he's no ally, shut up, chatters. You can express your disappointment with your comrades. You can express disappointment with people that you are by and large in agreement with, okay? Calm down. I'm just explaining what I think would have been a fortuitous, even politically fortuitous moment that Bernie Sanders and AOC could have capitalized on as well, knowing full well that if they were to offer a megaphone to this cause, that one, they would associate themselves, or they would basically calcify their position as like defenders of the First Amendment, as going up against this administration's unjustifiable policies of eroding the First Amendment. And they would have been able to do additional conferences on top of this to say, like, look, see, we are showing, like, they would have been able to instill confidence in their mobilization. They would have been able to instill confidence in being able to make changes, no matter how tiny it may seem right now, by mobilizing people directionally like this. This is why I kept saying, like, I think politicians are doing a great job. Like Bernie Sanders is doing a great job. AOC is doing a great job with organizing and getting people to come out to rallies. But I think they should be mobilizing them directionally against some of these causes as well, in an effort to show the people that they are bringing out to these rallies that there is a different path forward. There is a way to put people first, and there is a way to get bodies into these there's a way to get bodies into these rooms that will actually cause people to second guess before they make these fascist decisions. I also think there's another issue here. Yes, I think they should be endorsing Zoran as well. Yes. I think Bernie and AOC should be using some of this opportunity that they have, using some of this media momentum that they've developed by going out and doing these rallies to offer Zoran something he needs desperately to win this New York mayoral race, and that is name recognition. Zoran's biggest hurdle right now is name recognition. He's locked down the irony poisoned Zoomers and all the leftists and the DSA types and everybody else. They love him. I love him. He's great. He needs to get the aunties and the uncles. He needs to get the black and Latino and all of the other like unks and aunties to be on board. And I think the only thing that needs to happen for that to happen is to get in front of them. That's it. And they would get in front. Zoran's name would get in front of them, I think, if AOC and Bernie actually endorsed him. And I suspect that they will. They probably are not doing it yet because they're going to do like a maximum impact endorsement, I suspect. I hope. Because if they don't, oh my God, that would be so disappointing. Like, that would be incredibly disappointing. Yeah, if they go with Brad Lander, who is the safe choice, he's not like a horrible person either. But if they go with Brad Lander, that will be really sad because Brad doesn't have the juice. Zoran does. Zoran is the #1 pick right now. And people will say cowardly, oh, it's ranked choice voting, so who cares? Like, as long as you're going after a progressive slant. Yeah. It's cowardly because Zoran needs name recognition and doesn't have it. If he got that name recognition, if he got that name recognition, he would absolutely explode in popularity. He would become a genuine oppositional figure to unseat, like to ruin the chances of Andrew Cuomo. That is the major hurdle here. This is precisely why it has to be deliberate. An endorsement has to be deliberate. And it has to directly say Zoran so that people look him up.
Mr. Khalil has just been ordered removable under 1 count under the administration's charges against him. So this is something definitely that they're going to be using to see if they could find relief for their clients as well.
So as you say, he's not the only student who's been detained over pro-Palestinian activism. You're kind of touching on this, but can you tell a little bit more about how the...
Some chatters are defending Bernie by saying it's called being strategic, but they don't understand there was nothing strategic about it. No, there was, if anything, it would have been brilliant for Bernie to use all of the momentum he has. Bernie Sanders is old, yes, but he has a lot of momentum. He has a lot of motion, okay? This is a gimme. This is not only going to elevate his status as someone who is a real fighter against the administration, this is going to be a mutually beneficial. It would have been a mutually beneficial movement because this way, not only does he look like he played a role in this release, okay, is easy W, but also on top of that, he gets to instill confidence in his audience. He gets to instill confidence in his followers that their voices matter. That is what we have to do right now because a lot of people, especially in the aftermath of what took place in 2020, where they went out and they protested Black Lives Matter, throw up the black fist, commodification of radical movements and a neutering of radical movements. 8 can't wait. Democrats actually, after COVID, go out and win the election. People did everything. People did everything that they were supposed to do. If you're an elderly Gen Z or a young millennial, you took it to the streets and you protested. You fucked shit up. You yelled from the rooftops. Then you went out and you voted. You voted for Biden. You voted for Brandon, who was supposed to be the oppositional figure that was better than Donald Trump. And you saw nothing in return for that. You saw nothing in return for that. Okay? That, I think, played a major role in ruining the confidence of an entire generation where they saw nothing from doing all of the right things. Because when in popular culture, in the books that you read, what do you hear? You hear that you take it to the streets and you protest, you engage in civil disobedience, then you go out and you vote and you do your civic duty. And then change is supposed to happen. But no change comes in the aftermath of that. What does that do? What does that do to the collective consciousness of an entire generation? It causes despair. It causes nihilism. A lot of people don't understand that. A lot of people are completely oblivious to it, where they think like, oh, well, they discount it. They think, oh, well, whatever. You know, that's just politics, baby. That is how it is. That is not how it's supposed to be. We must also combat apathy. And a great way to do that is by not only mobilizing people, not only organizing people to go to the rallies, right? But to mobilize them directionally against the causes you care about. And if it wasn't about Israel, Palestine, let's say, and about something else that Bernie talks about, because he talks about this as well. He doesn't think this is a justifiable position. Okay, before people go crazy and be like, yo, Bernie's just an ultra Zionist and, you know, he loves Itamar Ben-Gvir. That's why he's not saying anything. Like, no, that's not the case either. I mean, he said abhorrent things for sure. You know, 17 months into a genocide saying Israel's right to defend itself. That is abhorrent. Like, that is ridiculous. And he's been outflanked by people who are succeeding him, like AOC and many others. He's not shy about endorsing people who have more radical positions than him on this issue. Okay? Having said that, he has been an active defender of the First Amendment and has defended the First Amendment against BDS, against AIPAC in the past when no other congressperson ever talked about it. This is precisely the reason why I tried to broach the subject matter from the point of view of First Amendment protections when talking about Mahmoud Khalil when I was face to face with Bernie before his Nevada rally. We didn't have enough time to get into it, but that is what I think. That is what I think Bernie should be doing, because I know he cares about this. I know this is an issue that he does care about. It's not secondary for him. It's not inconsequential for him. And not only that, but that's why I'm disappointed about him not showing up for Mohsen specifically, because he was his constituent. What do you mean free speech against BDS? Bernie Sanders and Dianne Feinstein are the two figures in the Senate, the only two lone senators that have criticized anti-BDS legislation that passed in, like, at that point, it was like 20 states or something. This was a decade ago. Yes, she's dead now. My point is, at the time when anti-BDS legislation was passing in states like Texas, which I'm going to be talking about in a little bit, okay, with the Governor Greg Abbott going ultra woke mode in defense of the state of Israel in the state of Texas. But, you know, those are the two people that actively criticized this shit. Where did you go last night? You ended early. I want to watch the VOD. I went to do the podcast with the girly pops. I went to whine about it. It's not live, but it will be out. Yeah. Here, this is it. Look. Sanders, Feinstein urged Senate to reject anti-BDS bill, threat to free speech. Two of the most prominent Jewish members of the Senate warned that the Israel Anti-Boycott Act will harm free speech in the United States. This is from December 19, 2018. I wish he would mobilize people, even if he doesn't care about the issue, but I do know he cares about it, right? I know he cares about this. But even if he didn't care about the issue from the perspective of, like, defending people's free speech or whatever, this is an opportunity to galvanize and embolden your audience. This is an opportunity to combat the apathy that they feel. It is a way to show with your work that you putting bodies in front of this issue, you mobilizing people in front of issues directionally, engaging in direct action and participating in civil disobedience works. That's my point. I hope people can understand what I'm saying here. The Vermont congressional delegation, 2 senators and 1 rep, have a joint statement applauding the decision to free Mohsen Mahdawi. Senator Bernie Sanders, Peter Welch, and Representative Becca Balint today released the following statement after Judge Jeffrey Crawford ordered the release of Mohsen Mahdawi, who was illegally detained by the Trump administration. We are relieved that Mohsen Mahdawi was released on bail from ICE detention in Vermont and that the constitutional right to due process prevailed. Mohsen Mahdawi is here in the United States legally and acted legally. He should never experience this grave injustice, said Sanders, Welch, and Balint. The Trump administration's actions in this case and in so many other cases of wrongfully detained, deported, and disappeared people are shameful and immoral. This is an important first step. We will continue to fight against President Trump's assault on the rule of law. I understand. What's the point of having 30K people if you're not going to use them for something? Exactly. But I do. But that's the thing. What do? I want Bernie to do more of what I do, which is to, like, go out there. You know what I mean? Ironically enough, why do I go out there? Why do I speak on protests? Why do I go out to rallies? Because I want you to do the same. You know, I want not only for people to gather in rallies and engage in the act of catharsis, which is important to do, okay? It's important for people to recognize how horrible things actually are. That's the first step. Awareness is the first step. But after awareness, you have to move on to organizing. And after you organize, you have to mobilize. Anyway, here's another fantastic thing that took place, of course, in the aftermath of the release of Mohsen Mahdawi. Shai Davide is crying. I don't want to talk about Mohsen Mahdawi being released from prison. Soon we will all pay for Mohsen's freedom. Yeah. I was a leftist for a long time, but it's extremely helpful to gather and discuss because I run out of steam trying to wake up normies. Yeah. Shai Davide. He's crying. Shai David. Shai David. Yeah. Shai David, baby. Bitch made, by the way. What a ginormous bitch Shai Davide is, crying that the Trump administration did not force through an unjustifiable apprehension and revocation of legal permanent residency status from a person who didn't even do anything wrong to Shai, by the way. He actually, Mohsen, is one of these guys that's like impossible to persecute, okay? He is too peaceful for his own good, I would say. From what I understand, Mohsen actually met Shai and had what he thought was a productive conversation, but that lunatic turned around and demanded his detention, his permanent detention. God damn. Is no one going to think about my feelings? Like, why? Why is it always your feelings that matter in this process? Why can't we erode? Why can't we erode constitutional protections? My feelings were hurt when you said Israel is bad. Nazi freak, dude. Nazi freak with the mind of a petulant child. This is the problem. I can't believe that these guys get to dominate discourse, dude. Holy fuck. How selfish. Like, if you had a sense of shame, you would recognize your own moral depravity, okay? You would recognize your own moral depravity and you would shut the fuck up, at least. Because there's plenty of people out there who were popping off, if you recall, in the early month of October in 2023. They are silent now. Why? Because at least they understand the capacity to feel shame, where they're like, you know what? Maybe I shouldn't be chirping right now. Maybe I shouldn't be putting myself in the forefront of this conversation in this incredibly selfish capacity. Anyway, speaking of petulant children, let's go and watch a lecture that is currently taking place on the H3 podcast. My former podcast co-host is talking to Sam Cedar. I believe it's supposed to happen soon. You cry and complain about propaganda and the rights of leftist free speech under attack, yet you literally are a leftist propagandist and time out or ban anyone who has a difference in opinion. You weren't complaining when right-wingers were getting censored and canceled during previous years. Hypocrite law, keep losing and loser. The right owns the world and you have no power. Cupcake, hysterical DEIs. Point to me a singular right-wing person that has been jailed specifically for their speech. Give me an instance where the Brandonian administration actually took out a right-wing organizer specifically for speech, for exercising their First Amendment rights, because that would be unconscionable and repugnant and immoral. Go ahead. They're going to say January 6th. Come on, dude. Dude, if brown dudes wearing keffiyehs stormed the Capitol, they would be melted with machine gun fire. What are we talking about, January 6th? Go ahead. Tell me about, do you know what the First Amendment is supposed to protect you from? It's not to protect you or shelter you from criticism for exercising your free speech. It is supposed to protect you from the government enforcing your speech, the government controlling your speech. It's a protection for you against the government. Anyway, Sam is on. Let's take a look. Hasan Reactions is one of the best ones in the React channel.